Hey everyone, this is Mark from We Talk Art. I wanted to share some warnings about this place. No, not this place. This place. The internet, social media, even YouTube. This place. I've been using the internet in various ways and forms since the 1980s, and I still feel like the internet is an amazing source of information, and I still am a big fan, yet it has a dark side. I have no doubt that you have probably learned some of the lessons from this place, but I feel compelled to share some of my concerns because as an artist and a creative, I feel like some of the dark side affects us. Maybe not directly, but still, you should be wary. So let's roll the intro and get into it. I've been into technology and computers for a good part of my life. I actually got my first job to buy my first computer. It was an Apple II Plus with 48K of RAM and no hard drive, just floppy drives, but I was lucky enough to have a color monitor. Oh yeah. I've been into the internet for a really long time. I've used it since college, so when the World Wide Web started to grow, I was really excited. I was all in. I started a company, I made websites, I saw a lot of opportunity, just like a lot of people did. But I have to admit, I had no idea then what it would become now. Amazing and scary, all rolled up into an $80 a month connection fee. Okay, more like $150 when you consider all the mobile devices. Ouch, and that's not even the scary part. The dream of a completely level playing field that allowed everyone to have the same voice as everyone else, well, that kind of happened. Yet, it did not quite work out the way, at least I foresaw it. Money speaks, and money has a loud voice on the internet. Also, it becomes very hard to know what is good information and what is not. When everybody who has an internet connection can talk, the signal-to-noise ratio can get a bit blown out. Back in the day, when there was few media sources and huge audiences, if a media source said something wrong or unethical, the retribution was big and real. Now there's an unbelievable number of media sources, people talking, each with a small audience, and these media sources can shift and attract new audiences in a short amount of time, regardless of what they say or do. Short attention span theater in action. I now feel that anyone who is going to use this amazing tool, and don't get me wrong, I still think it's amazing, should be aware that there's guidelines and disciplines one needs so they do not get taken advantage of. An analogy of this might be if you're going to go to the big city for the day or travel internationally, you might want to make some effort to determine what not to do. No one wants to be taken advantage of or make a huge faux pas. Same thing here. This is the biggest community in the world. I do want to point out that I am not talking about the truly crooked people that are really trying to do harm and evil. They're here. You should be aware of them. You should always pay attention to what the latest scams and threats are, and you should protect yourself. But that's not what I'm talking about. You should probably go to the experts for that. I'm talking about mainly side effects of the way the internet and mainly social media were designed to work. I think you'll understand as I continue. In 2020, Netflix released a documentary called The Social Dilemma. I would recommend anybody who uses the internet should watch it. Basically everybody. It is a bit heavy-handed and overly dramatic, but it does have value in establishing the ways that social media platforms work and how you should be careful. It is still on Netflix, so you do need a subscription or you need to find a friend to watch it with. It is worth the time. I will cover some of the topics as I see they apply to artists here. A point from the movie The Social Dilemma that I want to mention is that the economy of the internet is eyes. Your attention, the attention of the masses. It is the thing that has value here, and it is the thing that everybody is trying to get. It could be for many different reasons. Some can monetize it, some it feeds their ego or legitimizes them. They may want to influence the way people think. They may want to sell you something, or there are a lot of people that just want to share what they know. There may be other reasons, but the point is your attention is the thing that is valuable in this place. And just like any situation where there is something of value, There are some people that are ethically and morally trying to get that value. Then there's some people that are more opportunists that fall into the morally gray area. And then there are the really bad people that will do anything to try to get that value. Knowing who is playing which game is important. As I said, most of these warnings here are not the people that are in the last category, except for the first one that I'm going to talk about. Most fall into the first two categories, and as with regular people in business, the vast majority of the people are ethical, good people. The one warning that I think is perpetrated by unethical people is the first one. I bring it up because not a lot of people really talk about it, and it leads me into other areas that I want to talk about. It is all the hidden messages that are put into media that is trying to look like it is just posted by a normal person. The problem is they are often staged performances that are trying to get you to believe they are real. I remember the first time I recognized one. It was many years ago. The realization shocked me. I couldn't remember the platform, although it was most likely Facebook or Instagram. I don't know why it showed up my feed. I mainly follow artists, yet it was there. It was this angry confrontation, and it was shot on a cell phone camera, and it was staged to look like someone just caught it. But because I've been in photography and video for a while, I realized that the way the camera moved and the fact that everybody was really trying hard not to look at the camera, that it was staged. You just can't walk through a crowd of people with a camera and shove it in someone's face and not get anybody to acknowledge you, even if it's an argument. Once I realized this, I started to see tons of these staged dramas all around the internet. Scenes where someone is filming something that they would not have filmed unless they knew something was going to happen, or it was staged, or the motion of the camera just is not normal, or they have multiple camera angles, or like the first video, was able to walk through a crowd of people without resistance and no one acknowledging the camera's there. Whatever it is, it makes it obvious that it's not real. AI is going to even make this more of a mess. The other thing that can clue you in is identifying the message. There's almost always a message, even when it's subtle, and asking, who wants me to believe this and why? It is my opinion that some huge number of the reels on Instagram are these staged dramas. I will acknowledge that some of them simply are creators finding an audience. Again, the attention is the value, and making these dramas because people watch them is a value. The problem is that some people don't realize they're watching a drama that is staged, and they come away thinking they saw something real that really happened. Why this is important for artists. Stay tuned. I'm going to connect the dots through another warning. But first I want to talk about another broader topic. Almost all social media platforms are set up to look as though you're just getting a feed of all the things your followers are posting and a few random recommendations and, of course, all the ads. The unfortunate truth is the platform is controlled by computer algorithms that show you content that they think you are going to watch. These platforms try very hard to keep you on the platform and looking at their content as long as it can. Your attention is the value. Again, for many, they do not realize that the content they are seeing is not just an orderly feed of random content or an even mix of all the content. They don't realize that the platform has analyzed your actions on this platform and elsewhere to create a profile of you. It also profiles all the content people post, and then it connects the viewer with the content. This person's profile will probably watch this content type. This distinction between what the user thinks is happening and what the algorithms are doing is subtle, but can be very deceiving for the user in some situations. Many don't even realize they're not seeing the same content as other people. The human brain's superpower is finding patterns in things, and it is constantly trying to make sense of things by identifying these patterns. But when something is working behind the scenes to make you think that there is a pattern and it is actually programmatically feeding it to you, it can lead people to make the wrong decisions and wrong perception of what they are seeing. A totally made up example would be as if you just watched two videos about people complaining about the traffic in your town. The algorithm will start feeding you more in-traffic content. Our pre-internet brain will go and look at all these traffic videos the algorithms are feeding us and go, this must be a huge problem. This is because our brains see this as a sample of what it thinks are all the videos on the internet, not just the platform stacking the deck to make you watch more. This too I will be talking about more. You can see this happen in real time on Instagram. If you scroll down your feed a while past all your followers' recent posts and that kind of stuff, and just find a random reel and watch it all the way through and maybe even let it go another time, I almost can guarantee you the next couple of scrolled posts will have another video that's very similar to the one you watched all the way through. This kind of thing can really mess with your sense of how common and popular things are. It is also obvious when you are telling someone about the traffic videos you've been watching and they look at you like you're crazy. I don't see those in my feed. It should be noted that this is just a side effect of the platform trying to give you the content it thinks you want and will watch. You should know that the algorithm is amoral. It does not care if it feeds you helpful or hurtful information. It just feeds you the content that has a high probability that you will watch. So, keeping these things in mind, one type of content that always gets me going is the quit your day job and become an artist content. It is a subject that I have discussed with a lot of artists and I have even given talks on it. This message comes in a ton of different formats and levels of subtleness. I get this content because I watch a lot of art content. I know a lot of artists and I have met even more artists. Creatives, professionals, hobbyists, you name it. And I can tell you that being a professional fine art artist that can live off the proceeds of their art is not easy. And quitting your day job to pursue that without a lot of preparation, dedication, and hard work is a really bad idea. Despite that, I see the message being delivered in a large variety of ways and quite often. I do some investing in the stock market and I've found a handful of people that I follow that help me keep up with what's going on. One of them has this thing that he said several times that really stuck with me. He said, if you listen to someone giving you stock market strategy advice, you have to make sure you're playing the same game they are. What he means by this is if me, as an early 60s semi-retired middle-class male, started listening to a 30-something tech millionaire about investing strategies, there's a good chance that would go very bad. We have different needs, different risk tolerances, different bases, different expectations, and we are in different places in our life. It would be bad. The same goes for artists and creatives. If you've seen any of the number of videos I've seen on Instagram that play out something like this, sexy supermodel, male or female, sitting in a rustic chair in a 5,000 square foot studio, looking out a window at some beautiful waterway while sipping tea, and the camera follows their gaze as they look over to their 40 by 60 blank canvas, and then the words appear on the screen, "What should I paint today?" As I pointed out earlier, this may be a mini drama that someone staged, but if it's not, you must realize that it is very, very few artists who do not have some kind of money coming in from some place, parents, spouse, retirement, annuity, inheritance, or others, can make this kind of scenario work in any kind of profitable way. As my financial guy says, if you're going to believe this message is real, you must ask yourself, is this sexy supermodel playing the same game I am? Do I have the money to afford a 5,000 square foot studio and an audience that wants to buy my 40 by 60 paintings? Or do I even live in a place that has a beautiful waterway I can overlook? Seriously, much of the messaging on these platforms about being an artist are just not helpful. Be warned. But I have no doubt this kind of fantasy attracts a lot of eyes of wishful creatives, and as I have said, those eyes have value. Another trap that creatives should be aware of is the product review or recommendations. This is an area that I really don't think that most of the people providing information are trying to deceive people. It is just that it is a catch-22 that is created by the way this platform works. Back in the day, there was a thing called editorial integrity. In a nutshell, it just means that the editorial department of a media source should not be influenced by the media source's advertisers. For example, it would be bad editorial integrity for a magazine to run an overly positive review on a product that is from an advertiser to gain favorability from that advertiser. Once upon a time, doing so would be very detrimental to the prominent publication. But today, the reality is the concept of editorial integrity is pretty much dead. Furthermore, the dynamics of social media and these platforms make it even worse. I remember the first time that I became aware of the many things that coming together to catch me. For many years, photography was my art form. Photography is a pretty gear-intensive art, and I, along with a lot of other photographers, would spend much of my time looking at new gear, something that I do not recommend, but we often did. One of the things I liked photographing was doing night sky photography, called astrophotography. Although I did not really have a good lens at the time, I started a not too serious search for an inexpensive option for this and ended up seeing a lens that might fit the bill. And I started to research it. And at the time, my brain, still innocent of the ways these platforms work, and lo and behold, I started seeing a lot of content in my feed about this lens. Wow, this lens is pretty popular. Look at all the people that are talking about it. As I stated earlier, this was the false belief that I was looking at some random mixture of all content, not the algorithms feeding me what it thought I wanted, which is not really a bad thing as long as you are aware of what is happening and you are not just assuming that the increase of this kind of content is because it's popular. It is not. The next problem that comes up is a bit more hard to perceive. As I started to read and watch reviews, they were for the most part pretty favorable reviews for this affordable option for this kind of astrophotography lens. Well, I eventually purchased the lens only to be somewhat disappointed in it, and I was a bit shocked. How could this be? It was so popular and well reviewed. Long story short, after some thought and some analyzing of the situation and doing some research, the picture became somewhat clear. Of course, I've already told you why I thought it was popular. It wasn't, but why was it reviewed so well? Well, let's just say that I want to start a YouTube channel for reviewing photography gear. Unless I am loaded, which I am not, I would need to convince someone, most likely the manufacturer, to let me borrow or to give me the gear I need to review. So if I go to company X and I ask to review their new latest and greatest 500 megapixel camera, they agree and send me the camera. But as I'm reviewing it, I realize that the camera really is absolute crap and I review it as such. I'm guessing the next time I go back to company X and ask them for another one of their products to review, I would get a not so polite, yeah, no. Furthermore, if I went to company Y and asked them for a product, they would probably look at my channel and say, this guy's pretty hard. I would imagine we can find someone more favorable to review our products. The result would be a very short run of my new photography review YouTube channel. The reality of this is that I believe a lot of people will not review products that they don't like or just tell the specs and try to say something good about it. Like, oh, this 800 millimeter lens is substantial and the writing on the barrel is really easy to read. Add to this the amount of paid content that is disguised as reviews or people willing to be paid to give good reviews or give good reviews because they know that is the only way they're going to continue to get access to the products to review, can greatly skew the accuracy of the information that is on these platforms. Few recommendations I have for you is to look for reviews from people that you trust that have continuously given you good reviews and go back to them for your reviews. If several of these sources don't review an item, you might take that as a sign that the item just is not that good. Watch out for reviews that don't say straight out, this is a good product or this is better than the competition. Also keep in mind that everybody has a voice here. Some people are just fans of some product lines and really have not tested them in a way that tells them how good they are compared to their competition. Some artists like products because it works for their techniques or their voice. Many people who give opinions are often just repeating what they've learned or what they have heard or what they settled on with very little testing. Just like real life, there's a lot of opinions and it is up to you to determine which ones to listen to. The final point is one that I made in my very first We Talk Art video. The internet will suck you in and easily waste all your productive time. If you want to make good art, make art. Yes, there are many wonderful sources of great educational art instruction, and you may learn something from them, but nothing is going to be better than putting what you learn into action and making lots of bad art until you learn the lesson and start to improve. Once you've mastered that, go back and learn the next thing. But it's easy to get sucked in and flow from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, realizing hours later you don't remember what you learned, what you saw, let alone be able to put any of it to any real use. Even if you could, you wouldn't now have the time. Finding a healthy balance is something I feel many creatives struggle with. Again, the internet and social media have many benefits and have much value, but one must be cautious and watch out for the overt or subtle forms of misinformation and cons. And as an artist, you must protect your valuable art-making time. This was just a short list of the places I feel like are traps that you must watch out for. If you can think of any other ones, please share them with the community in the comments below. If you've made it this far, consider giving us a like and subscribe to the video. It's free to you and really helps us out a lot. Now go make some art.